Welcome to the Simply Be Found Huddle, where Dean and Rob talk about everything business and helping you be able to grow your business. And we do everything raw and uncut, unedited, and be able to bring you just quality in there. And today we have our guest, Leslie. Leslie, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what it is you do? And welcome to the show.
Sure. I am Lesle Lane, and I am the founder of Studio 13. I'm a third-generation photographer in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I have a team of about 9 associates that work with me, both as photographers and administrators and different things, so that I can not only take pictures, but also think about strategy and really focus on where the business is going in the future.
Awesome. And what's your target market? What kind of businesses do you work with?
We work with everything from multi-country, multinational companies, all the way down to the mom and pops that have 5 to 7 people, just people that really care about what their image looks like, whether it's a product or whether it's a person or a service, that transparency of accuracy and that the images need to be quality. That's really the company we go for.
So you more of a doing photography for branding purposes, or is there other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't do portraits, babies, seniors, weddings. We only work B2B, and we are only trying to get that message across to our company's clients.
You don't like using that squeaky toy? Here, look at me. Okay.
No. In fact, I made my 4-year-old child cry on their 4th birthday trying to take their birthday picture. That tells you how bad I am with children.
Now, the generations before you, did they do the corporate world as well, or what kind of photography did they do?
So interestingly enough, my grandparents were portrait wedding photographers, and then my aunts took over their business. And then my mother and my biological father started the first color lab east of the Mississippi with the help of Eastman Kodak. So they were there during that transition from black and white film to color. My mom and dad got divorced. My mother met my stepfather in a convention in Denver, Colorado. They hit it off immediately. And lo and behold, my mom up and moved me from Georgia to Indianapolis, Indiana. And my stepfather was a corporate photographer. Well, he really wanted to corner the market and do both weddings and corporate photography. And I was the girl, so I was supposed to do the wedding photography. And I'm like, I don't have the personality. I don't even like to attend weddings. And so it turned out that I took over the corporate side of it, and we never did corner the market. So
the wedding thing did not work out.
I'll tell you, I just suck when it comes to dealing with things that are like romantic and ethereal and warm and fuzzy. I'm just not that girl. And I tell that, and my husband looks at me, he goes, God, I love you so much.
What kind of wedding do you want? I don't want a wedding. Let's just get married and be done with it, right? So
we got married in the backyard with 9 people.
Yeah.
That was it.
So, so my first wedding for my ex-wife, we had a big, huge wedding. It ended up turning into where her dad wanted all these people to show up. And it ended up being more of a wedding for him. And I was 18 and young and dumb and all the different stuff that was happening at that point in my life. But the second time around, we had a vacation plan to go to Anna Maria and with my wife's parents, and I was like, hey, well, we've been together for years. And I was like, hey, why don't we just get married while we're there? Her dad had Alzheimer's and was still at the point of remembering. I'm like, why don't we just do it on this trip? Ended up booking it, and it was our oldest daughter together and the two of us and her parents. That was it on the wedding. And then the preacher or whatever he was that was there that did it, and the photographer. And it was right on the beach. You don't get any more personal than that. And there was nobody there. That's my kind of wedding. I didn't like the whole big wedding thing. That just was not my cup of tea. But
no, but I will let you know, we chose our wedding day based on when the photographer was available, because I had a specific photographer that I wanted. And that was the same day as the Grateful Dead concert, which is my husband's favorite band. And so we had a 9:30 in the morning wedding. We had champagne and cake for breakfast, and then we took everybody out to lunch where our bar bill was higher than our food bill. And then we went to the Grateful Dead show that night, so everybody was happy.
Well, the bar bill with that band, it sounds appropriate to me.
Yeah.
Now, on my wedding day, my father-in-law and I, and rest in peace for him. He's no longer with us, but it's one of those things to where him and I took off in that morning, and I think we hit every single bar we possibly could have on the island. So if you've ever been to Anna Maria, it's 2 miles long, 6 miles wide, or 6 miles long and 2 miles wide. So we walked that entire island and probably hit every single bar, and we had drinks out on some boats, and it was a good day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I walked home and I made it in time to be able to go get in the car and go down and get married on the beach for sunset.
Sounds like a perfect day.
I don't know if you can talk about mine. That's enough wedding stuff. I want to know more about this photography, this corporate photography stuff.
Let's do it.
All right. So Leslie, do you guys have a studio that I'm assuming you do? You stage I guess it depends on what the products are. Do you do like restaurant pictures, like food pictures and things like that, or is it more stuff that's produced in manufacturing? Tell me a little bit more about where you guys go.
Well, I used to do a ton of food photography. In fact, I love it. But since the days of DoorDash and Uber Eats, they have actually diminished so much the price that people will pay for photography that unless you're doing a menu for a large restaurant, there's just not a lot of food left, especially in a small community like Indianapolis. So it's unfortunate. But I think that because of social media, people want to change those images so often, it's almost become disposable, where I used to shoot and we would use those images for years. So I don't do a ton of food anymore, but I do corporate headshots. We do architectural interiors and exteriors, product photography. I have a small studio in my home, and then we do a lot of it on location. Let's see, we do have a drone person and a video person. So we really hit the gamut of just about everything else corporate except for that food. And it's a changing time. I had a big studio at one point, and the people, corporations are squeezing their people tighter and tighter. Yeah. So, people used to come to my studio, they'd spend the whole week there. We call it the fishbowl, a fishbowl worth of people that are supervising what I'm doing. And now I can't even get them to look at anything I send them. They're just like, get it done, because they just don't have time to sit on a photo shoot anymore. So if I need to rent a studio, I can. If it's bigger than something that I can shoot in my garage, but most of the work I'm doing is on location.
So are you finding that video is more effective now for some of the branding versus stills, or is it kind of a mixed bag? I know it depends on the product a little bit.
Yeah, and it depends on what you're trying to sell. Video certainly has become very effective at short clips where people want to put it out on social media, either what they're doing today, what they learned today, what their clients can take off of a soundbite. So that's really popular. But anything that's going to be more permanent on your website, those take a little bit more planning. So I don't think that it's more important. I think that people just need to make sure they're using it according to what their not only brand identity is, but what their customer is looking for. People normally don't even start by asking their clients, what do you need? What do you want? So that they just go, we need a new website. And they make a new website. The very first thing I did with the new website was ask my clients, where are you buying photography? How do you find your photography? And I put social media, and I put website, I put Google, LinkedIn, whatever it is. I put it all down, and not one person said social media. So guess what? Social media is just an add-on to what we're already doing. We also asked them, do you want more video or drone than what we currently offer? No, they did not. So I just really feel like that before you start any marketing, you've got to ask your current clients what you're doing well and what you're not doing well, and how can you make it so that they get what they need from you.
Well, I think it all fits into what I don't know if you've ever watched any of our videos, but we talk about marketing in a whole. It's a whole tree ecosystem. So down on the bottom, you have your listings, your directories. That's all your business information. That's all your business data going out to all of the networks. That would be your root base. That website's going to be that trunk of the tree. That's going to be your main, your main copy that's there. And then your SEO, city pages, all that different stuff, depending on what kind of business you are. And then you have the tree concept, which is the canopy. you have your blogging, you have your video marketing, you have your social media. You might have branches underneath that for each of the social media networks. And then you get into stuff like photography and how that fits in there. And I'm assuming with how the world has changed and you're looking at that whole ecosystem, when it comes to the photography world, you have to decide which pieces do I want to have it be professional and which ones are going to be, I don't want to say disposable, but you're going to have disposable content inside of there as well, where if it's only going to last, it's only going to be good for this short little period, I'd consider that more disposable. How do you handle that side?
You're absolutely right. You couldn't be more spot on. If you're talking about, so financial advisors are clients I work for. When you think about people that care about how they're perceived, bankers, financial managers, lawyers, doctors, just think in that level, pharmaceutical sales, all those things. And when you're talking about that somebody on your team just volunteered with the Boys and Girls Club and they won an award, and you want to push out that your employees are doing great things, that's disposable. Take it with your cell phone. It's only good for that day. Toss it. That same company, though, wants me to come in and make sure that all of their headshots are updated every year and a half. And then they want to make sure they always have a team photograph to show how large their support staff is. Somebody may have moved into a brand new facility that they want to show it off because it gives them legitimacy as to they're based in a high-end suburb of Indianapolis that makes them look amazing. Some of the pharmaceutical companies, they'll send me all around the country to make sure that their headshots are top notch and that they're not getting something, because that's not disposable. That image that's on LinkedIn, that's on the website, that goes out with every proposal, those are not disposable. So couldn't be more point on.
So I don't know if this is something you've thought about, but it's where my brain went. So now I'm going to have to talk about it. But it's one of those things to where when you're talking about that disposable stuff, it's good to have somebody with the photography eye to keep an eye on it and give feedback and be able to help whoever's taking that disposable stuff. So when you're working with a corporation or a business and you're coming and doing their headshots, do you have a package that allows you to kind of keep your finger on it, do some review and provide that feedback? Or is that something you've ever thought about or explored?
Well, I have, I was a teacher. I don't know if you guys remember the Great Recession of 08, 09, those lovely,
quite well.
lovely years. I also decided to roll the dice on the bingo card and got divorced at the same time.
Hey, I did too. And what did I do? I said, hey, I'm going to go start a business.
And so I had to go into teaching on the side. So I picked up a Saturday bachelor's program and I taught. And so I have offered clients, if they need me to build a curriculum to help their in-house photographer or their in-house marketing person be more adept at using actually their cell phone, that I do offer that. And I have done that with some of my companies, but they have to pay me. I've got 30 years of experience. I'm not going to tell them how to replace me for free.
Don't you do like we do? We show up to a chamber event or something, and everybody goes, well, how do I market better? How do I do this better? They want all this free information from you. Come on now.
Or they want to give you exposure, Dean.
There you go.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. We deal with a lot of small businesses, and I tell them, like in the contract world, you can hop in after you do that bid, record yourself after you do the bid, and record yourself about all those key points that you went over, and that you had somebody in this town have these problems and do this thing. That doesn't have to be that high of quality, but it provides that content that keeps it going, and where you can then do your social media. You can have all that to where it brings your personality into it. So I think that one of the biggest things when I'm pitching that to anybody inside of marketing, their biggest hang up is they're worried about it being perfect. They're worried about how they talk. And I was like that before I started getting on YouTube. I was worried how I talked. I was worried about, my foggy brain of how my brain works and does everything. I wasn't sure how that was going to come across, but a lot of business owners are scared of being able to take that leap. And I think a lot of them are looking for a course or some kind of course to be able to go through and get that feedback. Do you offer anything like that?
I do not offer it like that. That might be something that I should think about, and I certainly appreciate you bringing it up. But no, I don't. Again, it's just people that they want me to help. And so I designed something for them, but that's a great idea.
I think it would be, because they might start there, and as they grow or as they see more needs and start to build that relationship, it'd be a great way for you to be able to build that rapport up and get that piece in there. So it's something to think about.
Well, and those relationships, as you're talking about the tree of marketing and all the things that's a perfect analogy for it. Those relationships are the water that feeds the tree. And so, your network is your net worth. And a lot of people in my industry think that they can network only behind the computer. And you cannot avoid social interaction forever, as much as I would love to. This is my preferred method of communication. But I've learned in my industry, I have to actually go out and speak to real people. And I have to build relationships with them so that when they have a need, they think of me, or when a friend has a need, they refer me. So, that's just another part of that marketing tree, that the water comes from the network.
Yeah, you have to have those nutrients, definitely.
You do, for sure.
And everything is connected inside of that tree too, because everything has a relationship to how everything goes. I mean, we looked at all of our social media. I mean, hell, we own a social media platform that allows you to post out, schedule your stuff, and do all of that. I looked at our social media yesterday, and I was like, we're not posting anything that has the right graphics on it. We're forgetting all that. I refer to that as being the cobbler's kid, because we pitch it all the time. And I look at my own shit. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? But
yeah, I had to get my headshot updated because I've hated it for years. And I don't like being in front of the camera. So I had to call one of my friends. I'm like, will you take my picture?
Gotta love it. So Leslie, when you do the photography, besides the headshot stuff, you do products. Do you provide content, or do they provide content, and then you do the photography based on their content? Kind of explain the process of what images that they're after. What are they trying to like if I had a picture, if I have this, I want to have this right here, and I'm going to give you a description of it. I want to tell you this is what I want to have happen. I want to do this nice, pretty thing. Well, what's that process like? I'm just kind of curious.
It's funny because if you're shooting photography for content, your price point is very different than what I charge. So normally what happens is when I'm out on a job, let's just take a product since you brought that up. I am shooting for their online catalog. I'm shooting for their printed catalog. I'm shooting for advertising, whether that's billboards, trade magazines, whatever that is. And then they're shooting the product for their content. So instead of me providing content, they make sure that people know, hey, look, we've got a new product coming out, or we've got a new catalog coming out, or hey, look at Leslie, she's amazing capturing this really difficult medical refrigerator, which I just did recently. So the products don't always have to be exciting, but how we're getting it to their buyers is really what I provide for them.
So you're kind of mixing in, if I'm hearing that right, kind of the behind the scenes piece to build up some excitement to what's about ready to come from that.
Yes, and a lot of my clients, whether it's product or architecture or any of those things, they will be shooting behind the scenes shots. I do some work in higher ed, and so the colleges are like, hey, Leslie's on campus, shooting this, that, or the other. So again, it's just more about preparing people that the real pictures are coming instead of providing that kind of content. So it's about price point. The clients that I'm looking for are the ones that really want and need to invest in it.
How long are you typically, so if you're doing a building or something, how long are you typically on site? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it depends on the square footage. So last week I was shooting in Louisville, and the client only wanted exteriors only. So to shoot a logistics park in Louisville, I was on site for a couple of hours, walked about 2 miles because that's how long it took me to get around the building. But that's just exteriors only. And that's a footprint of about 500,000 square feet. So it just depends on how big the building is and whether we're doing interiors and exteriors. So next week I'm on a 50,000 square foot medical project, and I'll be there all day.
So I got to ask the question, you do an outside shoot, light. I mean, you don't always get good light. It's flat or it's too bright. Do you depend on the digital process to clean those things up then, or do you wait for the light to get better? I'm just kind of curious on that process.
Yeah, so that is a huge problem. The weather in Indiana sucks, in case you're curious about moving here. Today in the afternoon, we've got a beautiful what I call Chamber of Commerce May, which is why we do the race here. This morning, I almost drowned. So I try to do a combination of the two. So for Louisville, that job had been postponed twice because we had either rain or heavy cloud cover. You have to have some kind of light to engage the building. You cannot take a building on an overcast day and make it look like it's sunshine. There's no way to do it. You can take a partly cloudy day and enhance it from there. But if you have zero sunlight engaging the front of the building, that's not something you can make up. So exteriors, we will normally have a date and a rain date. For the job I'm doing on Monday, we're doing interiors and exteriors. So we'll do the interiors no matter what on Monday. And if it's raining, I'll come back at another time to do the exteriors.
Cool. And how has AI and technology kind of changed the photography world? I know it's changed the marketing world. It's changed so many different businesses out there. So how's it changed the photography world?
Yeah, so super grateful that you asked that question, because I feel like that it is, everybody's talking about it, but I think that talking to somebody who's in the industry to let you know what's really happening in my industry are two completely different things. So there's two questions. There's the technology of the cameras and lenses that has changed immensely over the past 10 years. So the ability to track an eye, you now can track someone's eye in the camera, which means slipping focus is no longer a thing. You also, since you don't have a mirror in the camera anymore, we're now capturing directly onto the sensor, giving us the crispest image we've ever had in digital photography. Also, we now have the ability to upsize a file in camera. So like I can process the file inside my camera to go to a 1 terabyte file. Pixels that aren't even there can be created in the camera. So now I don't really have a lot of need for a 1 terabyte file. I've got to be honest with you, but there could come a time that I need it. So that's the technological side. It's amazing. Photoshop, as most people know, has had a sense of AI for a decade. Right. That is nothing new, but what it can do is incredible. So as a corporate photographer, my clients will not wait a month for their images. I need to be in and out, processed and delivered within 5 to 7 business days. And so the AI that is in Photoshop is helping me be more efficient with my time, add a layer of creativity, or, even go back to older images. So last week, somebody sent me an image that I actually shot in February before I changed cameras. And I was able to take it into Photoshop and do just a little bit of shifting here and there that I wasn't able to do because the camera didn't have the technology that I now have. And so that's the side of Photoshop. Unless you're a bride and groom that wanted to be going to Paris for your wedding and you can't go to Paris for your wedding, then we can put you in Paris. But otherwise, for what I do on a daily basis, most people getting their headshot or shooting a building don't want to be someplace else. So that part of it hasn't really affected me. Will it? I think if you're a photographer and you're not studying AI, and you are not understanding how it can either set you apart from your competition or make you more efficient at what you do, you will fall behind. There is no two ways about it. Find clients who have to relay authenticity. So I had an ad agency here in town that they decided that everybody was going to get a new AI headshot. Everybody, because it was only $75. Well, they got exactly what they paid for. Everybody hated it and nobody will use it because they all look fake. Will that be that way forever? I don't know. I have no idea. Now, in the product photography world, I work with 3 different manufacturers that one of them got their packaging kicked back from Target because it was an AI created image. And Target said, no, you have to give us authentic images on all your packaging, or we're not going to use it. So there are things happening right now that show some pushback. The more we use AI, the more we create fake images, the more we change our images, the AI is going to learn and it's going to be more effective. So again, as a photographer, I've got to keep up on this and I have to know how it is going to affect my business and how I can use that to my advantage instead of disadvantage.
Well, I think it's a big step. I mean, it's kind of like when we went from film to digital.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like I describe AI in the marketing world. It's kind of the same thing as, going back into the 90s and going from, dial up. I mean, I go all the way back to the 28.8 to the 14.4 to, 56K and then going up to DSL to the cable. I mean, it was a night and day difference for what we were able to show online, how we were able to do it, and what we were able to be. I think with AI, we're moving at that same speed. And some of that comes into where we went from that film to digital. So with where we are, so we're in Windsor, Colorado, and Kodak was a big piece inside of Windsor. Dean can talk about that more than I can because that was during his time more in that area than I was. But I mean, they didn't think digital was going to be a big thing, and they got left behind because of that.
Yeah, you bet they did. So my biological father was still in the color lab business during that time, and his wife, my stepmother, was a photographer. And I called my dad and I said, "Hey, I'm about to buy my first digital camera. I'd like to talk to you about it." He goes, "Oh, I'm not going to talk about it, Leslie. I'll be long dead before digital photography takes off." And I'm like, "Dad, no, you will not." And it was my mother. It was my mother that said, "You've got to do it." And, I'm just so fortunate that my mom and my grandparents were such innovators, because by the time it came to me, I spent $209,000 on my first digital camera. It cost more than my house. And at 27 years old, I go, "What's the big deal? Let's do it." Because I was too young and stupid to know to be terrified. And so I think as we're now transitioning with this, the thing about digital photography, my first digital camera, it was about the size of, I don't know, 18 inches round, because it was a wheel. It was attached to a 4x5 camera, but the pixel quality was incredible. Like, this camera that I have now is the first one that is anywhere near as beautiful in its pixel quality as that first camera was. We're not seeing that with AI. We are seeing the bastardized stepchild of a real photograph. We are seeing things that are so ridiculously bad, but it's going to get better. Where digital photography, because in the beginning it was not portable. You could not take a digital camera and shoot people with it. You could not shoot anything that moved with it. And so it could be really, really good. And then the quality went down to make it portable. And now it's coming back up because everything's a pendulum. So I see this AI feature being, like I said, just a bad rendition of a photograph. It's going to change. It's going to grow. The change in digital, it only took about 5 years before everybody had a digital camera. And my 200,000 monstrosity was a complete relic. And so I think that AI is going to move a little faster, even faster. And I think that we're going to have to figure out, where does that middle line as consumers? What do we want? Since that's what I'm doing. I'm marketing, I'm advertising. What do the consumers want? Reality or fake?
Well, I mean, when we were going to go do the Huddle for the very first time, and Dean and I were talking about it. So when I was out on podcasts and doing all that before, it was one of those things to where it was the same questions over and over on the same podcast. And there was nothing real about most of the podcasts I was on. Some of them were great conversations, but a lot of them were the same. I'm like, they're like, "Oh, it takes a long time to edit." And then when the edited version came out, it was nothing like what it was. I'm like, we need to be raw. We need to be unedited, unfiltered, and just put it out the way it is. Because if you make mistakes, some of those mistakes are actually what makes you real. And inside of today's world with AI, we've lost the reality of what's real and what's fake. And that's now a huge concern to what I call the crocodilian brain for making decisions and buying products. Is it real? Is it fake? Is it going to hurt me? Is it going to spam me? Is it going to cost me more money? Is it just going to be a waste? I mean, am I going through and making an impulse decision? Those are all now things that we're going through, and they're happening more now inside of the world of data than we've ever seen.
Yeah, you are so right.
And Go for it.
No. I never saw I wanted to know if you have a corporate museum of all your old photography equipment somewhere.
I do not, but there is one in Vevey, Switzerland. There is the World Camera Museum, and I went over there about 7 years ago, and there in that museum was my big honking camera that I bought in 1997. I looked at Greg and I'm like, my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a relic. I'm right there. There I am.
Gotta love it. So
I saw someone post old phone and it said they saw it at the museum, and I'm like, man, I remember when I had to put my phone around my shoulder and it came in a bag.
Yeah.
Well, come on now. I remember when I was a kid, the AT&T came around, or whatever it was at the time, with this phone trailer, and they were doing video phones. We're there now, but they had the race between a dial phone for those the people may or may not even know what I'm talking about.
You mean the rotary phone?
Yeah, you had to dial, so if you had to dial 911, you had to go 9,
right,
and road for 11 or whatever, I mean, but if you had but you could do the push button, and it took you 15 seconds versus a minute to dial. So things change, they get better sometimes. Sometimes they don't get better right away.
Right.
So it really depends. But you're talking about the quality of the digital. I kind of thought of Ansel Adams, if we will. He had that big plate, mercury plates or whatever those were at the time, and the quality from that was phenomenal. And then then we had the Kodak Brownies come out. I'm dating myself now, kind of thing. But
what's a Kodak Brownie?
It's the little cameras you used to hold like this, and you used to look down.
Okay, I've never heard
there
of
you go.
I've seen them, but I didn't know they were called.
I didn't realize that was in your background. That is hilarious. The images used to be upside down in the old cameras too, Rob.
Yeah.
So when you looked at them, they were inverted. So you had to. It took a little bit more challenge, but when I didn't get started in digital like you did. I'm a real serious hobbyist photographer, just to let everybody know. And I used to spend a fortune in film. I used to get 5 or 6 rolls of film. I'd shoot in one day sometimes, and then I could do the digital, and it was like, oh my god, this was great. I love it, but the quality wasn't quite there for those smaller cameras back then.
Yeah, but think about that, guys, from a business perspective. So, as a third generation, I'm so blessed that I have so many people that have taught me so much. My father had a team of 11 people, 3 photographers, 3 lab technicians. And at the end of the day, if he shot 3 rolls of film, those were profit centers. That's, if he shot 25 rolls of film, he's making $5 on every roll he shoots. Then we have to do proofs. He's making $12.50 on every proof. My dad had so many revenue streams coming into his business, and that's how he became successful. And that is also why the cost of getting a professional photographer was actually higher than what I charge today. So my rates today are less than they were when cell phones did not exist. And fellow business people out there, that's no fun, in case you want to know, when your prices have to go down because you're no longer as marketable as you once were. That's not an ego hurt or anything. But by the same token, I have a knowledge that my competitors don't, because I shot film, because I know how to light and to expose and to create on film. That gives me an edge, over people that don't have that experience. But it also makes running a business even more complicated, which is why I've gone to this, freelance associate photographer basis, so that I have other revenue streams besides just me. Because being a solopreneur is damn near impossible, because when are you going to sell? When are you going to market? When are you going to strategize? And then for us, when you're done shooting, you got to edit. So if you're doing those things, you're not growing your business. When are you going to think? When are you going to think? And so, it's taken me a while. I'm not going to lie. There were some really, really bumpy roads. Let's not talk about the divorce years. But it's taken me a while to get here.
Well, it's one of those things to where you have to learn how to be able to work on your business, not necessarily in your business, but there's key points that make the business you. And what we've inside of the business world, as I'm looking at it, we're changing more now than we ever have, to where not everybody's looking for the Targets of the world or the big corporations. They're looking for someone who is, it goes back to that being real piece, to where the business owner has to be somewhat involved. And there's certain parts that they bring to that business that make that business what it is. Because it's really hard to be able to not do that anymore. Unless you are a commodity and, your Walmart or Target or one of those guys, that they're just a powerhouse.
Yeah. And, for me, that's when I shoot, that's my most profitable arm of the business. So you have to balance that I'm more profitable when I shoot than when my associates shoot, because I also insist on paying my people what they're worth. I'm not one of those brokerage firms that just treats their photographers like crap, but also, thinking about what's going to bring people to the business. And that is partially me going out there into the world, but it's also that people are really tired of looking for what I have to offer. If you Google photographer in Indiana, do you know how many people you're going to get? That doesn't mean they're going to answer their emails. That doesn't mean they're going to quote on time. That doesn't mean they're going to deliver on time. It doesn't mean anything. And so they would rather have me manage the job and hand it off to some of my trained associates, and they can say, Leslie's got it. She's going to make sure that everything runs well, than to have to go through that vetting process of trying to find a photographer.
So do you have any boundaries of where you work, or will you work anywhere in the United States, or will you work anywhere in the world?
I'll work anywhere in the world. I mean, I keep saying that, but I've never done it yet. I just will. You want to send me someplace, I will make you a deal, as long as it is not someplace that I'm going to get killed. But most of
Come on, you don't want to go do a Photoshop in Afghanistan or somewhere crazy?
No, I will limit. I really have no desire to go to South America. I'm going to say, got no desire to go there. Slight desire for Africa, but snakes. But most of what I do is coast to coast. It's within the continental United States.
That's awesome. So I've got to ask. So when somebody hires you, your business, and you may want to share this a little bit, who owns the rights to that intellectual property? Do you turn it over to the clients, or do you keep it control? And is that what's the best practice if people are looking for somebody like your business?
And I'm going to say she does it based on the contract, but it bases on the client. But let's see what you say.
So this is a great question, because there are photographers out there that are working for the Land's End, let's say. They're working for big title companies, LL Bean, boat companies, RV companies, and they're doing those through an ad agency. And when you're working through an ad agency, many times those rights are limited. I have never been a fan of that, but I've also never worked in those capacities. Like, I work with ad agencies, but I'm working directly with the company 85% of the time. I'm working directly with the end user. And so the bigger the company, the more hoops that you have to jump through. And it is not uncommon that I have to release my copyright for the larger companies. And if they put enough zeros behind that, I will absolutely release that copyright. For my average customer, for just the average person that we're doing maybe a day rate, it's one job a day every other year. My contract states that my clients have unlimited usage. That's also uncommon. The reason I give my clients unlimited usage is I do not want to police them. In a digital world where you could literally put that image anywhere, how would I possibly find it? And then what am I going to say to my client? Jerk, you just used my image where you weren't supposed to. Give me another $1,000. Do you think they're ever going to call me again if I police them?
No, it's going to be it'd be a legal nightmare for one. For two, it's going to be, it's not how you build a relationship.
That's right. And so instead of doing that, I retain the copyrights. They can use it whenever they want to. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get repeat business because I make the process easy. For me, repeat business has always been more important than one big fire rocket of a job.
Well, that's a great point, though. Retention is so much easier than developing new relationships.
Yes, and those people you made happy, those people you make happy, they'll tell other people. But if you make them unhappy, they'll tell twice as many people.
Yep. Exactly.
And if you bend over backwards for someone and try to do something really special for them because you feel bad for them, usually those clients end up being the worst clients you could possibly ever bring up.
Oh my God.
And we'll go back to 2008. We'll go back through, when you were going through your divorce, my divorce. I'm sure you made some of those things too. And you're like, well, that hurt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That cost me more than it was worth. It didn't help.
Nope. Didn't help the situation at all.
helping or hurting.
Yeah. Lordy. But no, that's an interesting point, though, you just made, because it happens in our industry as well. In the marketing world, is that people, they go to an agency or whatever, and they do all these things. They get reviews and things, or they're putting all their information in, and then they leave that agency or that organization, and they freeze their stuff, and they don't release it, and that's why it hurts a business. So it's really good to always vet who you contract to, and that I'm just going to leave it at that. No matter what kind of service or product you're buying, kind of thing, you got to be careful. So
yeah, you do. And especially if you're like, I have a particular ad agency in Manhattan that I work with. And, everybody needs to read that contract, because I'm not allowed to tell anybody who the client is. I'm not allowed to tell anybody who I shot with. I'm not allowed to tell anybody what I did. And if you're not careful, because the bigger the company, they provide me with the contract, not the other way around. And their legal team is unbelievable. And so, you do find yourself signing those contracts. You just got to make sure that you stick with it.
That's a good point. I mean, the bigger the company, the stronger their lawyer team is. And I mean, coming from venture capital and doing all that stuff for a while, there's some people out there that'll just take advantage of stuff too. And they make it a lot harder to do things. And it ends up being a big roadblock. I hate those roadblocks.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the big price tags come with big hoops. And, you have to think really hard about how many whales you really want to work with, because it's the swordfish that pay the bills. And a lot of times, even your flounders will keep the business going during a recession. Learned that the hard way. During the recession, I had a client who made up 80% of my business, and they folded during the recession. And so I've just found that my flounders and my swordfishes, they keep me really happy.
I like the analogy. I
like that. I mean, but you have to learn that in business. And it's amazing to me how the photography world is kind of like the web design world. Anybody can build a website now. I mean, anybody can sit down, they can build it, but they're not going to have the right data sets. They're not going to look at it in certain ways to be able to put it all together. And I mean, it's taken a long time, even during our Simply Be Found journey. It's taken a lot of, scars and a lot of learning of, okay, this is really where we are. This is what we're good at. And we're going to stay what we're true to. And if you can't afford it, use our tools. But if you can't afford it, we kick ass at what we do. And we don't really bend. We have the blueprints to be able to go from it. But it takes getting your butt kicked inside a business to make those decisions. And I think a lot of new business owners don't even realize what they're getting ready to experience for that.
Well, and they take it so personally. I think that was I would say even 10 years ago, I was still not seeing it as, hey, they weren't a right fit for what you do. If they don't find value in what you bring to the table, that's on them. And it's okay. Sometimes losing the job has not been the worst thing that could have happened to me.
Yeah.
You can't make everybody in this world happy.
I've been known to fire clients over the years. Like, look, if I obviously can't do this right to your standards, we're not a good fit. So I guess we better part ways. So,
well, Dean, you're braver than me. I just mark it up 30%.
I've tried that, and it always bites me in the rear end. So the little extra money wasn't worth it. Trust me, sometimes, because we've all had those, and everybody will in business. So at some point, we'll have those clients or customers that they have that you can't make them happy.
Yeah, you can't. No way.
Do you have any tips that you want to share or anything for any of the small business people that might be listening for what they should be doing in their marketing as far as photography goes?
100%. I think that photography is one of those unique positions where you can be a hobbyist, You can be a solopreneur and you can be a business owner that, and I've been everything but a hobbyist, because in our family, you're not allowed to be a hobbyist. So I think corporate photography is really attractive to people, but it's hard for people to get there because a hobbyist does it on the nights and the weekends, where a corporate photographer works Monday through Friday. Even though I do work some on the weekends, that's mainly because of the weather. And so making that jump from doing it as a professional to doing it as a hobbyist is very difficult. So if you're trying to make that jump, listener, first thing you need to do is to start networking with photographers. You might learn how to assist. Most photographers in most communities that are doing commercial work will allow you to assist for free. You know, you won't get paid until you know what you're doing, but that is such an amazing way to learn the business. So I pick up new assistants any chance I can, especially since I work a lot in higher ed. These young people, you know, they're like, oh, it's so glamorous. I'm like, oh, yes, it is. Come on, assist me. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to flip your work. So if you want to be a corporate photographer, but you need a day job to get there, then you need to start working your day job nights and weekends. It sucks. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but you cannot do the things you need to do, networking, selling, meeting people, and shooting for a corporation. You can't do it unless you're not at a day job, or maybe you just do 2 days a week in an office or whatever, and 3 days a week that you're not. So just think about how you want to structure. Now, portrait wedding photographers, exact opposite. You can work, if you want to do Monday through Friday at a job and then pick up on the side, you can. Making the leap from a solopreneur to a business owner, it's rough, because I did it. It's rough. You need to start pulling things off your plate that keep you from strategizing and growing your business, whether that's the accounting, whether that's the admin, whether it's the editing, whatever it is that keeps you from going out into the public and meeting people. You need to get that out to, there's so many assistants now that are virtual, so many ways. I just have real people. Like, I've got real people, stay-at-home moms that only want to work 10 to 15 hours a week, and they do it by working for me. I don't use a person I don't know. I have relationships with everybody. So just really be strategic about how you spend your time, while also knowing that you've got to make a profit. You know, none of us need to be in this for free. It's not that fun.
You know, profit solves everything. Sales will always keep you alive as long as you're making a profit.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be where people would say inside of business books, you know, sales solves all. Well, if you're not making a profit on those sales, you're not going to survive either.
Right.
And it's no different than I used to always say all the time. You know, we could drive more sales to your business and put more money in your bank account. And then someone brought it up to me one day. Yeah, I don't have more money in my bank account. So that was wrong on that. He goes, my wife spends it just as fast as it comes in. I'm like, well, I can't help you on that. I can help you on a lot of levels. If you're not making profit, you won't have anything to spend either.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
But I mean, it comes down to that. It's using your time the best you possibly can. And it's having people who can ask questions that are on your team. Because if they're not asking questions and being able to use you as the expert in the resource, they're in the wrong spot too.
Yeah, for sure. And I can't, it's so hard for those solopreneurs, because they're shooting, they're editing, and then they're broke. So it's like you work that process to get the images out to the client, and then you realize that you haven't seen a single person that can bring in another job in 6 weeks.
Right.
I've got a friend of mine. He's a whaler. He's a whale hunter, and he does great with his whales. And this year alone, he's lost half of his revenue because a whale went out of business. And now he's like, I need to start networking. It doesn't work like that. It takes 18 months to build a relationship, and that's not even a buyer. That's just somebody that might pass your name on. I'm constantly, and now I've got a salesperson who's a 1099 contractor, and she's out there in the community, but it's going to take her 18 months to build those relationships. It's just not something you can one day say, I've arrived. It just can't.
Yeah, because you're basically growing organically. That's the same thing that we do with our marketing platform, and it takes time to do that because you just can't go. Here's a coupon. Everybody comes save 30% with me. Certain things just don't work that way, and it takes time for the organic process to happen for businesses.
Well, you bring up such an important point. The minute a marketer or a photographer starts devaluing their services, giving a 30% coupon, that's the minute they no longer can charge the rates they should.
Right.
So, as you're getting started, of course, you've got to watch your rates because your rates have to equate your experience. But if you are so desperate for work that you have to discount yourself, then the clients you want who value you, you're never going to get them. So you're just so right, Dean. That was spot on.
Well, you devalue yourself the minute you give somebody a discount. That's a big piece. I mean, we've went down that road. We've given discounts on our software before. It's never ended well. It's never been long-term, movements. It's never been any of that. It ends up just causing more problems than what it's really worth. I mean, it's one of those things to where you have to know that going forward. We get a lot of business owners that come in and they go, awesome, you can work with over 1,000 different networks. We want to put our information in. Boom, my phone's not ringing more on day 3. And it's like, well, no, this takes time to go through and do it. Oh, I was hoping it was going to save my business. I only had 30 days worth of, that was my last money I gave you. And I'm like, there's not a magic wand inside a business. If it was, everybody would be here doing it. Yeah.
And if you think that being a business owner means you're going to have more free time, might I chortle and laugh at you?
Now, it might be where if you can hire the right people and you had unlimited amounts of funds, you might be able to pull it off.
Yeah. I always find it very interesting when people go, I want to start my own business so I can have all the time off I want. It doesn't work that way. I don't like a boss. Well, your customers become your boss. I mean, there's certain realities that you always have somebody that you have to report to, and you have to put in the time to make things happen. And especially if you're doing in business, it happens where the best customers are your organic customers.
I love my customers. I swear to goodness, they have become friends, and they still hold me accountable. But again, they trust me. They believe me. When I tell them something about what they need, they're going to take my advice most of the time.
Yep.
Which is absolutely awesome. And as a business owner, my last kind of comment inside of there would be, you can work on your business or in your business. And as a business owner, you kind of have to do both to be able to make that swing and to keep your finger on what's changing. But yet when you go on that vacation or when you get to take that break, now you're thinking about your business in a different way and you're working on your business. You're not working in the business because you're away, because your brain never shuts off from it.
No, never. In fact, that's how I came up with my latest brainchild. Is we've got an educational section of our website. So it was photographic education, how to dress to your headshot, those kind of things. And one day when I actually wasn't shooting, I came up with the idea that why am I telling my clients about photography? They're all marketers. And so I started asking my marketing friends to write educational articles about marketing decisions. Why do you need a branding agency? Why print isn't dead in a digital world? What do you need market research for? And I found that has been one of my brightest ideas because I actually had a moment to think about my business, and it's connecting with my clients and prospects on a different level, but closer to what they need to do their job. So you're exactly right that you got to have time.
That course ties right into that. So you got to do that course now.
Okay. What course? Oh, yes, of course. That's right. I'm like, okay, got it.
Where did that just come from, Rob? Okay.
Yeah. You know my randomness, Dean. I can't get away from that.
And you talk about getting to know people. This is why Rob and I do this podcast, because not everybody gets a chance to know the people they're working with. And that's why what you do, because, it's a little different. It's not as, we're looking at multitudes versus just one or two, but, you still have to have that relationship. You have to understand there's a personality behind every business as well. So
yes, and being a small business, in my opinion, it really grants us the great ability to connect with people at a deeper level. And I'm constantly not just hiring, having photographers work with my clients, but how can I help them? If they see something like a branding agency, I can make those introductions, and being more of a resource to my clients rather than just a shutter clicker. That's what I've tried to do.
yeah, no, that's great.
What's really interesting about that, and where my brain went when you said that, is small business doesn't mean that you're not powerful. Small business now, with the technology we have, the resources and the connectivity that we have inside of there, you can be a small business and be a huge powerhouse. You can go right up against some of the biggest corporations more than you've ever been able to in the world of marketing.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, which is kind of an interesting piece, because if we went back into the 90s, that wasn't the case.
Right. Absolutely. And I wasn't traveling hardly at all, except for in the Indiana area. And now, I think that my industry, it is getting harder and harder to find trained, experienced professionals. Lots of amateurs, lots of hobbyists, lots of people that just do it in their free time. But I just think because of the digital world, I was shooting in Denver twice this year, and those images were able to be downloaded, sent to the editor, and delivered before I even got home.
Wow.
Well, next time you're in Denver, you should let us know. We should go have lunch or something.
I would love it. I didn't even get to leave the airport. I had to stay at the Westin at the airport the whole time. So, I mean, I literally looked at the mountains, and went back home.
So you talk about the Midwest and the climate. I got to do a stint in the northern Illinois for about 10 years. And so I remember what it's like. And I was so happy to come back here because the sun shines. That's our big secret here, everybody, is the sun shines here all the time. But but for your world of photography, it gets too flat because the sun's too bright all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And the reason people up in northern Illinois laugh at the people in Indiana is because the wind blows all of that moisture and everything off the lake. And we, from December until about March, it is gray. And then in August, it's nothing but humidity. So we get all of Illinois', trashy weather. They just send it down to us.
So you get their leftovers.
Yes, we do. We get their leftovers.
So we were called a name, and I won't repeat it because if I have to fix the acronym, but the people from Wisconsin have a wonderful name for those of us that were living in Illinois back then. And I'm just going to leave it at that. We'll talk about it in the green room after we're done.
Oh, come on. You don't want to open those cans of worms?
Oh, no. I have family that lives in Wisconsin. I don't want to alienate them.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, Colorado, we have 300 days of sunshine, something like that. I mean, we take that for granted, but now we have more wind than we ever have, and especially here in northern Colorado, than I ever remember. And it feels like we're in Wyoming. So, I mean, I hate the wind. The wind drives me crazy. The wind can mess with photography too.
The sun is shining,
Exactly.
There you go.
Well, Leslie, if anybody wants to be able to get in contact with you or see anything or see that course that we talked about, possibly maybe in the future, I'm going to plug that again and kind of just throw that out there so you don't forget about it. Where would they find you at, and how would they connect with you?
Sure. Studio13online.com is my website. That's got our complete portfolio, plus it's got the educational pages. And then you can reach me on LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook for the studio account. And then you can reach me personally on LinkedIn, Lesle Lane. So we would love to hear from you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day.
Me too. We always like to have those good days.